and contains first is inspiration followed by expiration, and this is the normal respiratory pattern, and this is called as eupnea. Okay, so normal respiratory pattern, which is normal in not only in rate, rhythm, and depth, it is called as eupnea. So here, normal respiratory rate is something like 12 to 18 or 12 to 16, depending upon the book, breaths per minute, and the rhythm is either it is not too shallow nor too deep. It is irregular in rhythm, and the depth of respiration, as I told you, it's not too shallow, too deep. Okay, so these are the common characteristics of the normal respiratory pattern is concerned, and there are certain things which have a certain impact on this, like there are say CNS, CVS, and respiratory centers, which can bring about certain changes in this normal pattern of respiration. And so here we'll discuss this one, tachypnea. What is tachypnea? Tachypnea is nothing but increased rate of respiration, similar to tachycardia, which is nothing but increase in pulse rate or heart rate. Tachypnea is nothing but increase in respiratory rate. Bradypnea is nothing but decrease in respiratory rate, just like bradycardia. Decrease in heart rate or pulse rate is called bradycardia, and decrease in respiratory rate is called as bradypnea. Then coming to polypnea. So what is polypnea? Rapid and shallow breathing, which is specially seen in some animals which have not good temperature regulatory mechanisms. Like for example, dogs in summer, what they do, if you observe them, you can see that they will be sticking the tongue out of the mouth, and they will be trying to breathe more number of times than the usual. And during this process, what happens is that the tongue is very much what you call salivated. As a result, the tongue will be very much under the influence of saliva, so that and all the body heat will be diverted to the tongue. So whenever the hot blood which is coming into the tongue, which and this hot blood or the heat of the blood is coming into the tongue, will be taken by the saliva, and saliva evaporates, so that the body cools. This is one mechanism of cooling the body, especially in summer. Okay, so this shallow breathing and rapid breathing, which is seen in animals like dogs, which is called as panting in dogs, is nothing but polypnea. Okay, then coming to apnea, complete cessation of respiration is called as apnea. Hypoventilation. What is hypoventilation? There is decrease in rate and force of respiration. It is called as hypoventilation. Hyperventilation is opposite of this one. Both increase in rate and force of this respiration is called as hyperventilation. Just a minute. Right. So this hyperventilation is nothing but hyperventilation is nothing but opposite of hypo, where there is increase in rate as well as force of respiration. Coming to this hyperapnea, here there is a little bit of discrepancy in the some books say that there is not much difference between hyperapnea and hyperventilation. But precise, if you ask me, there are three different terms: tachypnea, hyperapnea, hyperventilation. If there are three terms, it means that there should be some difference between these things. And here, as far as this literature goes, I have searched some of the books, and here what the books are saying is that tachypnea is referring to only to the rate. It is not commenting about the depth of respiration or pattern of respiration or nothing else. Only if there is increase in rate of respiration, it is called as tachypnea. Then what is hyperventilation and hyperapnea? Can anyone tell me? Yes, can anyone would like to throw their response? Share their response? Yes, you already heard these terms?
Sir, in this case, the blood chemistry will be changed, like pH will be affected and all.
pH will be affected. Okay, 83 number. Very good. You tried some, you gave some attempt. Very good. I'm happy. Anyone else would like to share anything? As far as this tachypnea, hyperventilation, hyperapnea is concerned, there is minor difference, but as far as this clinical practice is concerned, all of them are used synonymously, but there is little bit difference. It is in the name itself. Can anyone? Okay, I'm not going to trouble you. So you're already around maybe hearing classes since 2 hours. Okay, I'm not going to trouble you. So let us see. Tachypnea comes on is a term which is concerned mainly with the rate of respiration. Then hyperapnea is mainly concerned with both rate and also depth of respiration. And what is hyperventilation? Hyperventilation is a term used, for example, the person undergoes some exercise or person does some exercise, the change in the respiratory pattern, not only rate, depth and frequency, is nothing but related to hyperventilation. Okay, so the response we see after the exercise is hyperventilation, they say. And if hyperapnea is nothing but hyperapnea is nothing but increase in rate and depth, or only rate, or only change in force of respiration. These are the things which is very minor differences. But as far as you are concerned, as far as physiology first year is concerned, don't worry about the differences between hyperapnea, hyperventilation and tachypnea, all these things. Okay, now just for your knowledge, I'm telling you this one. Okay, then coming to dyspnea, this is more important for us. Dyspnea, what is dyspnea? When this hyperapnea, which is nothing but increase in rate and or force of respiration or depth of respiration, which goes beyond 4 to 5 times the normal, and it causes an unpleasant or discomfort to the patient, is nothing but dyspnea. In other words, some people also say that the what you call the person is very much uncomfortable and very much aware of his own respiratory effort, and which is causing unpleasant sensation or discomfort to the person, is called as dyspnea. Okay, and this that is about dyspnea. There's nothing but painful or discomfort awareness of one's own breathing pattern. Okay, that is about dyspnea. Then coming to periodic breathing. What is periodic breathing? Is in the name itself. At regular intervals or one after the other, there will be apnea followed by respiratory activity. That is, during one part of this periodic breathing, there will be expiration, inspiration followed by apnea. That is no respiration at all. Then again there will be inspiration, expiration. Then again there will be apnea, no respiration at all. So this, when they occur one after other at periodic intervals, at regular intervals, it is called as periodic breathing. Right? Then coming to this apnea, we will discuss some points about apnea. Apnea, what is apnea? Complete cessation of respiration or complete cessation of breathing activity is called as apnea. In this, there are certain things like voluntary apnea. Here, this voluntary apnea is it is called as breath holding. In common man's term, it is called as breath holding. And this temporary arrest of breathing, it's nothing but apnea, but it is under the voluntary control, is can be done for 40 to 60 seconds in a normal person, and that too only after a deep inspiration. If a person takes a deep inspiration, and he can hold his breath around for 40 to 60 seconds, but if the respiration before, if the inspiration before that is not a deep one, they can't even hold for 40 seconds. It is even for less seconds. Okay, so this voluntary apnea is voluntarily withholding. Then here, what is breaking point? Here, this is one very important concept. Here is that if a person wants to commit suicide, he cannot commit suicide by voluntarily holding his breath. Why? Because of this breaking point. This is a very, very, very important point as far as medical legal aspect is concerned. If the person wants to commit a suicide by simply holding his breath, he cannot do it, is because after some period of cessation or after some period of apnea, what will happen is that here the chemical regulation of respiration overpowers the neural regulation of respiration, which is the breath. As a result, the person will not be able to continue breath holding for more than some stipulated period of time, and this stipulated period of time beyond which the person cannot hold his breath voluntarily is called as breaking point. So because of this breaking point, a person cannot commit suicide by voluntarily holding his breath. And why this breaking point is occurring is because the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is very much increased and partial pressure of oxygen is very much decreased. Both of them have intense stimulation of the chemical regulatory mechanisms which overpower the neural regulatory mechanisms which are causing the breath holding. Okay, so neural mechanism which is causing the breath holding is overpowered by the chemical regulatory mechanisms because of increased partial pressure of carbon dioxide and decreased partial pressure of oxygen. That is, a person cannot commit suicide by simply holding their breath. because of the breaking point. Then coming to this next one, apnea after hyperventilation. This is the common thing here. After hyperventilation, what will happen? The partial pressure of oxygen increases and partial pressure of carbon dioxide decreases. And we also know that when there is decreased partial pressure of carbon dioxide, or when carbon dioxide has been washed out because of excessive respiratory effort, what will happen is that it will have an inhibitory effect on the respiratory centers, causing apnea or cessation of respiration. Why will this occur? This is a defense mechanism. What is importance of this defense mechanism is that when there is hyperventilation, increasing oxygen concentration, decreased carbon dioxide partial pressure, what will happen is that this cannot be allowed to occur for a prolonged period of time. And so in order to prevent this, what will happen is that there will be apnea. So when there is apnea, slowly the oxygen concentration will come to the normal range and carbon dioxide concentration will increase to the normal range. And why this happens is that there is a stimulatory effect of carbon dioxide on the respiratory center. Whenever the carbon dioxide concentration or partial pressure increases, it stimulates the respiratory centers and causing inspiration expiration to occur. When the carbon dioxide concentration decreases below the normal range, the stimulatory effect of carbon dioxide respiratory center is gone. So respiratory centers are not stimulated. It results in apnea. So that is the reason why there is apnea after hyperventilation in normal people. Because carbon dioxide concentration decreases below normal after hyperventilation, and so respiratory centers are now further stimulated, so there is no respiratory activity, apnea occurs. And during this period of apnea, carbon dioxide concentration of partial pressure again builds up to the normal range. This again causes stimulation of the respiratory activity, so the person starts to respiratory activity again normally. Right. So that is about this. You understood? Can I go to the next concept? Okay, right. Then, okay, we'll go to the next one, deglutition apnea. As far as this deglutition apnea is concerned, is a very, very, very important question, as one of the very favorite questions for the examiner as far as 3 marks is concerned. Very common, very favorite question, applied aspect in respiration for very short answers. Okay, deglutition apnea. It is in the name itself. What is deglutition apnea? Here, during swallowing, normally when there is no process of this swallowing and deglutition and everything, air will freely enter through the nose, from there into the pharynx, and from there into the larynx, and there into the lungs, trachea, larynx, and then into the lungs. Okay, so this is a normal process. Now the problem arises only when the person is taking some food. When the person is trying to swallow some food, what will happen is that as far as the pharynx is concerned, which is the common pathway for both respiration and ingestion is concerned, here there will be some clash between the process of normal respiratory activity and process of swallowing in the food. So during this process, what will happen is that for a period of 0.5 seconds, that is for a period of roughly half second, the preference will be shifted from respiration to the activity of swallowing. As a result, what will happen is that the respiration will be stopped during the point where the food is swallowed from the mouth through the pharynx into the esophagus. And during this phase of passage of food from the mouth through the pharynx into the esophagus, the respiration is stopped, resulting in cessation of respiration, which is nothing but called as apnea. And this apnea is occurring because of the process of deglutition. It is called as deglutition apnea. So, because to facilitate deglutition and to prevent the entry of food into the larynx, trachea, and lungs, which is a defense mechanism, and facilitating entry of food into the esophagus, not in the respiratory tract, this apnea will occur. So, how this apnea occurs? Here, this apnea is because of stimulation of the 5, 9, and 10 cranial nerves. So, as soon as the food is chewed and made into a bolus, which is ready to be swallowed, and as soon as this food bolus touches the posterior pharyngeal wall, it causes stimulation of the nerve endings of 5, 9, and 10 cranial nerves, which get stimulated, and this stimulation goes and stimulates the deglutition center, which in turn inhibits the respiratory centers from undergoing respiration, causing apnea. And as a result, what will happen is that respiratory activity will be stopped. Along with it, the glottis, to be precise, the vocal cords will be closing. As a result, the glottis will be closed. Epiglottis will be pulled forward, closing the opening of the larynx. And as a result, the pharyngeal cavity will be widened so that easily or facilitation of food bolus from the pharynx into the esophagus and preventing the food to enter into the respiratory passage. And during this process, respiration will be inhibited, which is nothing but apnea, deglutition, apnea because of deglutition. Okay, so this is very important. Now, what is the problem arising is that is why I think if you remember, elderly people in the house will be saying, don't talk while you are eating. Don't be in a hurry to eat. That is the reason why here sometimes what happens is that there will be a little bit of incoordination between this process. Normally, this process will occur with a lot of coordination between each other so that there won't be any problem arising regularly. But when the person is in a hurry, when a person is in a rush to eat food and rush out, then in the process what will happen is some incoordination arises between this respiratory activity and deglutition activity. As a result, some of the food passages might slightly slip into the respiratory passage, as a result, which can cause severe hiccups or severe pain in the chest. Okay, that is why elderly always say, don't talk while eating. If you want to talk, what happens? Your larynx has to work. But the larynx has to work, your glottis has to be opened. And you cannot swallow the food with the glottis open, because there is a chance of food to enter into the lungs, which can cause some phenomenon called as choking. I think you can see this choking concept in the movies. Suddenly, the person will be eating, and suddenly the person will catch his throat, and he will not be able to speak anything, and he will be collapsing. Okay. This is process called as choking because of entry of food not into the esophagus but into the respiratory tract because of this faulty incoordination. Okay, so these two has to be prevented, and the mechanism to prevent choking or mechanism to cure choking is abdominal compression from behind, which you will learn better when you go to ENT. So I'm not going to trouble you now. Right. So this is nothing but deglutition apnea, and if this doesn't occur, it results in phenomenon of choking. Right. So coming to this breath holding attacks, these are very common in young children when they want to emotionally blackmail their parents or family members. Usually very common and very commonly complained by the parents to the pediatricians is that they are holding their breath. Parents don't know that it is voluntarily done by the children to emotionally blackmail the parents. Parents might think that it's some organic cause causing this one, and that is a problem. They're referring to the pediatricians. Okay, so it is not. It is a normal phenomenon. It is used by children to cause emotional blackmailing. And here, what is the problem is that, especially if the child is a little bit fair, on a fairer skin tone, what will happen is that whenever he tries to hold his breath, he will become a little bit red in color. Okay, and which may sound an alarm to a parent. Parent will be distressed. Actually, it is a normal phenomenon. Counseling can be done to the child, or sometimes what happens is most of the children will overcome this thing when they grow by the age. Okay, so it's simply not need to be really taken into serious consideration. Right. So that is breath holding attacks in the children. Okay, right. Coming to this adrenal apnea, whenever due to some reasons when there is high quantity of adrenaline given, it can cause apnea, that is cessation of respiration. That is why it's called as adrenal apnea. Sleep apnea. Apnea in deep sleep, nothing but a cessation of respiration when a person is in deep sleep, is sometimes even seen in even normal individuals. And this apnea which is occurring in deep sleep is called as sleep apnea. Then one more thing, there is a very important clinical condition arising because of this one. If it is occurring for a period of few seconds, it is not a problem. It doesn't cause any problems. But if it is occurring for a prolonged period of time, what will happen is that it will cause dropping of the oxygen saturation and increase of carbon dioxide partial pressure, which is not good. And this is and this occurs in a condition called as sleep apnea syndrome or sleep apnea obstruction or sleep apnea syndrome. This is a very important condition. And this is also a very important question as far as medicine and ENT is concerned. Okay, slow sleep apnea syndrome. In physiology also they will asking this question of sleep apnea syndrome. We'll discuss in the next or some other part. Okay, not now. So apnea or cessation of respiration seen in deep sleep, even in normal individuals, it is called as a sleep apnea, right? Then hypoventilation, what is nothing but a decrease in rate and force of respiration, that is causing decreased amount of air to enter into the lungs. Okay, and the causes are paralysis of this respiratory muscles or depression of the respiratory centers. Okay, and as we know, when the hypoventilation occurs, oxygen saturation decreases, which is nothing but hypoxia, and carbon dioxide partial pressure increases, which is nothing but hypercapnia. And this decrease of hypoxia, that is this hypoxia and hypercapnia together, because of respiratory causes, it results in a condition known as respiratory acidosis. Okay, and this hypercapnia, we know that it has an what you call a defense mechanism by stimulating the respiratory centers to increase the respiratory rate and correcting the oxygen partial pressure of carbon dioxide respectively. Right, so hyperventilation is nothing but increase in the amount of air entering into the lungs. Causes of hyperventilation is nothing but after exercise, and then it can be done voluntarily or secondary to hypoxia. Okay, so coming to dyspnea, what is dyspnea? We understood dyspnea is nothing but unpleasant sensation of one's own breathing difficulty or discomfort is nothing but dyspnea. Now, in English, sometimes the screen also said as described as air hunger. The person will be very much hungry for air. Is nothing but dyspnea. Okay, then what are these low vital capacity, maximum ventilatory volume, breathing reserve are more explanatory things in the form of practical, not for the theory purpose. They are more important for practical purpose. So when you come back, we'll discuss in detail about these things. Until then, you understand that difficulty or unpleasant sensation of one's own breathing effort is called as dyspnea. Is nothing but air hunger, because the person will be found to have hungry for air. Okay, so that is about that dyspnea and everything. Then causes of dyspnea can be many things, like for example, after severe muscular strain or muscular exercise, or sometimes in pathological conditions like bronchial asthma, emphysema, pneumonia, pulmonary edema, pneumothorax, and cardiac failure, dyspnea can occur. Now we'll discuss some of the conditions where this dyspnea can occur. Cardiac failure, you can see here. So whenever there is failure of the heart to pump the blood, what will happen is that it will result in congestion of blood in the lungs itself. For example, if there is failure of the left heart, what will happen? The blood will be stagnated in the lungs only, because the left heart or left part of the heart is concerned with taking the blood or drawing the blood from the lungs and pumping to the systemic circulation. When the left side of the heart is damaged, it is not functioning properly, it results in stagnation of blood in the lungs. When the blood is stagnated in the lungs, oxygen will occur, but this oxygen blood is not being supplied to the systemic circulation, that is brain, liver, lung, brain, liver, kidneys, and everything. This oxygen supply is not being sent. Why? Because blood is not being pumped from out of the lungs. As a result, what will happen is that the brain, the respiratory centers in the brain will be getting a blood which is containing less oxygen, hypoxia. As a result, the respiratory centers will be stimulated because of hypoxia, and they will cause the respiration to occur at an increased rate. As a result, what will happen is that because of this increased respiratory activity, some of the blood will be pumped back through the left heart and to the systemic circulation, and by the time this well oxygenated blood reaches the brain, there is some time gap. Why? Because the pumping action of the left heart is not good, it is slow, so it is taking some time for the well oxygenated blood because of hyperventilation to reach the brain, and during this period of time the respiratory effort continues to occur. As a result, what will happen is that there will be increase in oxygen concentration and decrease in partial pressure of carbon dioxide. And again, by the time this blood which contains more oxygen and less carbon dioxide reaches the brain, the respiratory centers then understand that oxygen is more, carbon dioxide is less. So they will be inhibited. So there will be apnea. And again, after this apnea, what will happen is that again the oxygen will come down and carbon dioxide pressure will increase. Then again, there will be some time gap for this blood to be pumped to the brain, where the respirators and again realize it is opposite occurring, that they again stimulated. So this is a vicious circle where there will be apnea, hyperventilation, and this hyperventilation becomes dyspnea. Why? Because increased carbon dioxide and decreased oxygen levels. So this is one reason why there is dyspnea in heart failure. You understood? Should I repeat, or can I go to the next concept? Anyone wants me to repeat? I have no problem.
Yes, sir.
Repeat. Okay. Okay. Some students are asking me to repeat. Okay. It's very simple. Now, normally there is one small thing. What is it? Whenever the oxygen concentration partial pressure decreases or carbon dioxide partial pressure decreases, whenever there is decrease in partial pressure of oxygen or increase in partial pressure of carbon dioxide, respiratory centers are to be stimulated. Right? That is one concept. Other concept is that whenever there is decrease in what you call partial pressure of carbon dioxide and increase in partial pressure of oxygen, respiratory centers are inhibited. This is one thing. I think you understood this one. More oxygen, less carbon dioxide, respiratory centers will be inhibited. Less oxygen, more carbon dioxide, respiratory centers will be stimulated. These two important concepts which I think you should already know. No, in this cardiac failure, what I want you to understand is that whenever the pumping of the heart is not good or not effective, or in heart failure, the pumping of heart will be there, but it is not rapid or not effective. What will happen is that there will be some time gap for the blood to reach from the heart to the respiratory centers of the brain. So what will happen is that here, initially, first part of the cycle, what will happen is that because the pumping action is not good, what will happen is that there will be stagnation of blood in the lungs, and as a result, the blood that is reaching, because of the stagnation, because of ineffective pumping of the blood from the heart to the respiratory centers, what will happen is that the respiratory centers of the brain will get blood which is less in oxygen and more in carbon dioxide. Okay, so we know that whenever the respiratory centers are exposed to blood containing less oxygen, more carbon dioxide, they will be stimulated. Too much stimulation. What will happen is that they will be overstimulated, which causes increased respiratory effort, which causes more oxygenation of the blood and more loss of carbon dioxide. So now again, when the same blood which contains more oxygen, less carbon dioxide, for the blood to go from heart to the lung, from heart to the respiratory centers of the brain, there will be some time gap. During this time gap, the respiratory center will be thinking that there is some problem with respiration causing hypoxia. So they will be continuously stimulating. So there will be hyperventilation. And when as soon as this blood, now in the second part, when the blood which contains less carbon dioxide, more oxygen goes to the respiratory center, now the respiratory center should understand that, okay, now the problem has been corrected and there is less carbon dioxide which is needed, more has to be maintained. So they undergo depression. So they depress the respiratory activity. During this period, what will happen? Again, oxygen concentration, less respiratory effort, oxygen concentration decreases, carbon dioxide concentration increases. And there will be some time gap for this blood that contains less oxygen, more carbon dioxide to go to the respiratory center. During this period, there will be apnea. Once this blood containing less oxygen, more carbon dioxide goes to the respiratory center, there will be again hyperstimulated. There will be again hyperventilation. So this process of hyperventilation apnea will continue because of the cardiac failure. There is a vicious circle going on. Okay, understood? Right. I'll go to the next concept then. Right. The next concept is metabolic disorders. Now, for example, we know that there are certain conditions like metabolic acidosis. So what is happening in this metabolic acidosis is that there is increased acidic concentrations. Here, this metabolic acidosis will be compensated by the kidneys in the form of increased excretion of H plus and more conserving of bicarbonate to overcome this metabolic acidosis. But the respiratory centers also help in this regulation by increasing the respiratory rate. Okay, and this causes this increased respiratory rate to compensate for the metabolic acidosis by the respiratory centers sometimes causes dyspnea. Okay, so this dyspnea can be also caused to metabolic acidosis. Okay, that is one thing. Then orthopnea, this is one thing, more of clinical, don't worry. As far as orthopnea is concerned, a person is having a problem with this cardiac pumping. Whenever he is in lying down position, there will be more amount of blood going into the lungs. As a result, there will be pooling of blood in the lungs. And when there is pooling of stagnation of blood in the lungs, the person will be feeling breathless or dyspneic. and this can be relieved by making the person in sitting position, so that a cardiac return or venous return to the heart decreases, so stagnation of blood in the lung decreases, the dyspnea decreases. So this is called as orthopnea. Okay, you'll understand these things when you go to medicine. Don't worry much about those things. Okay, now coming to this periodic breathing. Now coming to the actual concept of periodic breathing, I'll try to finish in 10 minutes. Don't worry. Right, periodic breathing. So as I discussed, periodic breathing is nothing but a regular occurring of events one after other in a regular fashion. That is nothing but respiratory activity followed by apnea. They can again respiratory activity again followed by apnea. When they occur one after other in a regular interval, is nothing but periodic breathing, one after other at regular intervals. Right. So in this periodic breathing, there are two types of breathing: Kinstokes respiration and Biot's respiration. Kinstokes respiration and Biot's respiration. I'll show you a picture. If you remember this picture, there's nothing else needed. This one, I'm sorry, this one. If you remember this picture, there is no need for you to mug up as far these two respirations is concerned. The above graph A shows Kinstokes and the graph B shows Biot's. Okay, so if you see here in this graph A, you can see there are certain waves followed by complete stationary line, then again some waves, then again stationary line. So here these waves represent respiratory activity, and this isoelectric line represents apnea. This straight line is nothing but isoelectric line is nothing but apnea. That means there is no respiratory activity occurring there, and waves represent respiratory activity. You understood this one? Yes. Now we'll go to the concept. So here what I want you to understand is that here you see they at regular intervals there is respiratory activity, apnea, respiratory activity, apnea. Okay, and again this is one point I want you to understand. The second point which I want you to understand is that during the respiratory activity or during the waves only, some waves are small, then again some waves are large, and then again the waves are becoming small, and there is complete apnea. Yes, you observe that one. Initially the waves are small, in the middle the waves are increasing in amplitude, then again a slowing decrease in amplitude, then coming to the apnea. So here whenever there is alternate cycles of respiratory activity with apnea which occurring at, that is first point, alternate cycles of respiratory activity with apnea. Then second point is at regular intervals, that is for some duration there is apnea, then followed by some duration of respiratory activity. Again, identical duration of apnea, respiratory activity at regular intervals. That is point. Regular intervals of apnea and respiratory activity. That is second point. Third point is that waxing and waning of the respiratory activity. You can see the small waves nothing but waning or less respiratory effort. In the middle, the respiratory effort is increased. Again, the respiratory effort is decreasing. Then it becomes apnea. So these 3 points are differentiating features between the Kinstokes and the Biot's. So what are the differentiating features is that in Kinstokes, first point is the respiratory activity alternates with apnea, and then second point is both of them alternate at regular intervals. There is regular periodicity. That is respiratory activity for some duration, immediately apnea, then is identical activity of duration of respiratory activity, identical duration of apnea. That is second point. Third point is waxing and waning of respiratory activity. Now, in Biot's, if you see, first point, there is a regular, alternate periods of apnea and respiratory activity. First point is seen. Second point is that there is no regularity. It is not completely regular. Sometimes it is short duration, sometimes it is long duration. You can see between the individual activities, sometimes it is long, sometimes it is short. Okay, and again, second point is there is no regularity in the rhythm. That is one thing. Third point is that here the waxing and waning is also not seen. There is no waxing or waning in this Biot's. So these two are the important things as far as Kinstokes and Biot's is concerned. Another important thing about Biot's is that Kinstokes can be sometimes physiological also. That means Kinstokes can be sometimes seen in normal physiological conditions also. But Biot's is always pathological. Biot's is always pathological. These are the three important differences which I want you to understand. So apnea, respiratory activity will be seen in both of them. Kinestokes and Biots. What the difference is that this alternate activity in regular fashion in Kinestokes, irregular fashion or regular intervals in Biots. That is first difference. The second difference is that there will be waxing and waning of the respiratory activity in Kinestokes, which is not seen in Biots. And the third point is Kinestokes can be physiological and pathological. Biots is always pathological. Biots is always pathological. You understood this point? Can I go to the next concept? Right. Then here can anyone tell me? No, I already told you this concept. You can apply this concept and tell me, anyone, why there is waxing and waning of respiration during the respiratory activity in Kinestokes? I already told you this concept just now. Can anyone? I want you to think. You know this one, I just told you. Anyone, try. If you try, you'll never forget. Very important as far as clinical, this thing also concerned. If you become anesthetist, if you become a cardiologist, if you become general medicine, if you become pulmonologist, whatever, you should have a very good knowledge about these things. Yes. Anyone can tell me why there is waxing and waning of respiration? You already know this. Just you have to apply your brain. That's it. Not tough also. Yes. No one wants to try. Okay, I'll tell you. So here, what is the problem is that initially there will be apnea. For example, let us start the cycle with apnea. During this apnea, what will happen? Carbon dioxide concentration partial pressure will increase, oxygen partial pressure will decrease. Now, what is the effect of this increased hypercapnia and hypoxia on the respiratory system? There will be stimulation of the respiratory system. So initially, the respiratory system will be picking up the respiratory effort. It reaches a maximum. Where when it reaches the maximum point, what will happen is that the hypoxia will be corrected and hypercapnia also will be corrected. As a result, what will happen? The respiratory drive decreases, or the stimulation or the intensity of respiratory effort decreases slowly. And as a result, it decreases slowly, and again that is why there is waning, and ultimately there will be sudden apnea. So again, during this period of apnea, again there will be hypoxia and hypercapnia. It will cause the stimulation of respiration. Respiratory effort gradually increases to bring the oxygen carbon dioxide levels to normal. Once the levels are brought back to normal, again the respiratory drive decreases. It decreases to such an extent becomes again zero. It causes apnea. Then again during apnea, hypoxia, hypercapnia. Again respiratory effort is stimulated. So this continues a vicious circle. So that is the reason why there is waxing and waning followed by alternate periods of apnea. Okay, so that is about this Kinestokes respiration. Can I go to the next one? Right. So, what are these causes of apnea? This is nothing but voluntarily hyperventilation, high altitudes, and sometimes seen in deep sleep in normal individuals. That's why I told you it is both physiological and pathological. Pathological causes of Kinestokes is chronic heart failure, which we just discussed. Because of this ineffective pumping and delay in the pumping of blood to the respiratory centers, there will be incoordination between the respiratory activity and the partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide, resulting in Kinestokes, brain damage, uremia, and poisoning by narcotics. Okay. Then coming to this Kinestokes, which we discussed, this heart failure and everything we discussed, no hyperventilation and heart failure. I'm not going to trouble you again. Then coming to this brain damage, the same thing here. The concept is same. Here, what happens is that in Kinestokes, due to brain damage, what will happen is that the respiratory centers are sensitive to the chemoreceptors, so the carbon dioxide gets exaggerated. Like for example, normally the chemoreceptors should not overreact for small decrease in partial pressure of carbon dioxide. But when there is damage to the brain, what will happen is that the chemoreceptors become overactivated or exaggerated activity. As a result, even small decrease in carbon dioxide pressure, what will happen is that they will cause inhibition, or small increase in carbon dioxide partial pressure, they will cause hyperventilation. As a result, overstimulation, which causes abnormality in respiration, that is respiratory activity apnea. That is nothing but Stokes. Okay, so that is about this Stokes. Now coming to Biot's, which I told you, respiration apnea occur at one after other alternately. But here, what is the difference between this and Stokes is that there is no regularity, not regular but at irregular intervals. There is no vaccine and waning of this respiratory effort, and then there is it is always pathological, it is never physiological. That is one thing. And then causes of Biot's is nothing but because of meningitis, head injury, or this and conditions like pontine hematomas, that is stagnation or clotting of blood at the pontine part of the brain, that is pons part of the brain, and then cerebellopontine herniation. That is when certain conditions where there is increased intracranial tension, this increased tension inside the brain will squeeze the pons and cerebellum down in out of the cerebral cavity downward. This is called as herniation. Okay, and then central medullary this is because of ischemia of the respiratory centers area, that is medullary part, can cause this Biot's respiration or Biot's breathing. Right. Okay. Then that is about this periodic breathing. Any doubt? Okay, can I close the class? Okay, then I'm closing the class. All of you have a good day. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.